happy to hear you say you're a supporter of Hr1. And just so everybody knows, Hr1 was a package that John Sarbanes in the House succeeded in convincing Nancy Pelosi to make as the first issue that Congress would take up. And that package of reform was the most ambitious democracy reform America has seen since the Voting Rights Act of 1965. It addressed the funding of congressional campaigns, not as ambitiously or aggressively as Andrew has described, but it was still an incredibly important system of public funding for those elections. It addressed gerrymandering. It addressed voting suppression by having automatic vote registration and a commitment to dealing with the Voting Rights Act to get back the protections of the Voting Rights Act that the Supreme Court has taken away. And it had a very strong package of ethics reform. And many people said it's a bad thing for Nancy Pelosi to do this because people will see it as just partisan, which of course is what happened when Mitch McConnell declared it to be just a Democratic power grab, which is a little puzzling when you say, how is it a power grab if you're just enabling people to be able to vote? But okay. But the point is, it became partisan, but what is inspirational about it is that all of a sudden it became conceivable that you could pass a law that would solve 85% of the problems we face as democracy. So my question is, that's Hr1. Would you commit to POTUS 1? Would you commit to making a fundamental package of reform the first thing you're going to push as a president to make sure that we have that as the first frame that enables us to have a democracy to think about everything else?
Yes, I would. And
okay, we get to clap for that right now, really loudly.
Yes. I'm going to carry the torch that you lit, Larry, across the finish line, because these process things, the struggles that they seem sort of arcane and technical, but they're actually fundamental. And that if you don't get them right, then you are sunk over time. So I love Hr1, the fact that I was really impressed with the drafters. I was like, wow, they really actually nailed a lot of stuff in this. And it infuriates me that the Republicans are not bringing it to a vote in the Senate. But as president, I would, if Hr1 has not been made law at that time, I would do everything in my power to make it law. And calling it POTUS 1, I'd feel a little bad because really, the drafters deserve credit for the solutions. So maybe I'd make it HR1A and then sign that into law.
A little bit too humble to become president, Andrew. You gotta grab those. Okay, so it turns out Olivia Zink has an extraordinary daughter, Ellie, who has been fighting for reform next to Olivia, who's the leader of the open democracy movement here in New Hampshire. I didn't realize this, Ellie, but that was your question. So here was Ellie's question. If you became president, what would be the first thing you would do in office? Will you fix democracy?
Yes. Yeah. So I've been saying around the country the first thing I'm going to do is get people $1,000 a month because I'm going to work on that. But I will actually amend it all to say the first thing I'm going to do is put democracy back in the hands of the American people. Then the second thing I'm going to do is get you that money.
Wow. I think we can just go home now. We're finished. Okay. So we have a couple of people who are keen on the ranked choice voting question. I have at least 3 questions here. So just to be clear, you support the ranked choice voting in the presidential primary in New Hampshire?
Yes.
Okay, so here's a question.